Okay, I'm going to sit down here or stand here and show you the steps that I went through when I made my grinding unit, my floating, my bearing, air bearing. And you can you can make it without the air bearing, the same setup, with just a nice slide fit on a shaft. The air bearing just makes it a little nicer, but you can actually do it. You can actually do it with if you have a Spindex, you could do it with a Spindex. But the only thing with the Spindex, you can't adjust in every time and pull away. You know, so it makes it a little difficult because the way I sharpen my end mills, I pull it away. I put my end mill all the way in to the top. Where's the end mill? Here. All right. So if I was sharpening this end mill on the finger, I'd pull it away and I'd come and get it all the way up toward the top with the finger. Then adjust it in to where it's grinding and then slowly pull it out. Then you get to the next one, adjust away, move it all the way in with the on the finger, and adjust it back into the wheel. That adjustment block that I have underneath the air bearing, without that, it's a lot harder to sharpen an end mill. But anyway, I'm going to sit down and kind of describe what I did. And I started out with a block of aluminum, and it's 2 by 3 by 5 inches 600. You know, so I started out with just a block. And it was 2 by 3 by 5 inches 600. Now this doesn't matter, you can make it bigger or smaller or whatever. And then the first thing I did was cut these end pieces in. So I cut this away down to there. I'm not very good at drawing. And the same thing with the other side. Cut that away. And then after that, I went ahead and I put my 2 bearing holes in. Well, before that I went and I cut the slots in. And what I did was I flipped it over and I cut a slot all the way. So the slot goes all the way through. You know, so that I can set it down and slide a screw or a bolt in there. Now you may be putting a bigger slot in or a smaller slot. It doesn't matter. It only matters because of the table that I'm putting it on. Okay, so then after I did that, I went ahead and I bored 2 holes in here. I bored a hole here and here. Now I have bushings in. You really don't need that. You could go, if you've rounded up ball bearings, you could go with a ball end mill and put 2 divots there. It'll still work. and I just put them I put them 3 inches 400 apart. You want to put them as far apart as you can on the length. So, and then, and like I say, you don't have to put hardened bushings in. You could just take a ball nose end mill, and you could, matter of fact, you could actually even take a drill. As long as the ball bearing sets in it, it's a divot. But you want the divots the same depth so that your ball's bearings are sitting straight. Although, even if it's off a little bit, it doesn't matter, because when you come in with the grinder, you're going to be in one spot, so it doesn't matter if it's sitting at an angle pulling it through or not. Okay, so then after I did that, then I needed to make the mechanism to drive it up and down. So I drilled and reamed a hole, a 1/4 inch hole, and matter of fact, you could go all the way through with that 1/4 inch hole. I didn't. And I drilled and reamed a 1/4 inch hole for a 1/4 inch pin. Let's see, right here. And I took a dowel pin and, you know, that's what that 1/4 inch hole's for. And then I put that on center line, right in between the two bushings. So it's on center line of the block. I went in about, looks like about 650 in. So I went ahead and bored that hole in a 650 from the edge. Okay, and it's on center line. And then you don't have to move anything, you just flip it up. And then I came down from the top. Looks like I came down about 850. So, and then that's a 3/8 hole. So I went down 850. Okay, so now I did not put these two in yet. The two dowel holes here, the two stops. I went ahead, after I got that far, I went ahead and made the handle. And the first thing I did was turned up this piece right here. And then basically it's just and I put a keeper groove in it, which I never did use. And I just turned up a blank like that, with 3/8 shank on it, and you have to make it long enough to where it's going to intersect that. Plus, when you drill and ream this whole 3/8 hole, you want to make sure you got it in far enough. So I went in quite a ways. I think I might have went in all the way to the center, drilled and reamed. Okay. And then when you make this pin, you want to make sure that you turn up this diameter, this 3/8 diameter that's going to slide in there beyond the 1/4 inch hole. You want to make sure you do that. All right. Then I went over to the mill and I milled the flat on there. And the flat, I milled like I'm showing it 260, 270, 270 wide. So it encompasses the 1/4 inch, you know. All right. So now I got that. Now I needed to figure out where to drill the hole for the handle, to put the handle into it. And you know, I've seen some people make it with a knurled knob. You know, a big knurled knob. You could do that too. I just liked the idea of the handle coming up against that. So I stuck it in there and then just kind of eyeballed, you know, at what angle I wanted to come in off, you know, off the handle. And I went ahead and set it up at, I think it was 10 or 15 degrees off, and pressed the shaft in there. And then I pressed a knurled knob on the end, and then I stuck it in there. And I wanted to know where to drill these dowel holes, so I went ahead and put it in there. And I stuck my dowel pin in that hole. And you can see where it's going down right there. Okay, so I went like that. I tipped it up carefully, and I went ahead with a transfer punch and actually, you know, laid it up against. You can feel it. You can feel where it's sitting down on that flat. And I went ahead and transfer punched the screw hole, or a dowel hole right there. And when I did that, I went ahead and did the same right in line, straight across, so that it's over here. So now you've got that much of it done. Oh, plus I drilled and tapped a 1/4 inch hole in the very center of the block. You know, that's for our spring. So right in the center of the block, 1/4 20. You can make it. You could actually make it whatever size you want, whatever size spring you have that you're going to put on that bolt. You could make it 5/16, 3/8, whatever. Okay, so that part of it is done. Now we come to this part. This is the part that's going to sit on top of there. It's going to sit right on top. And the first thing I did, the first thing I did was squared it all up. But then I went ahead and I put the 2 bushing holes in the same, and the same thing here. You don't really have to put a bushing in there. You could just put a drill dent in there, as long as they're the same, or a ball nose end mill. You could just go in there with a spot drill too. You know, as long as it's the same depth on both of them. Just a regular spot drill would work. A 3/8 spot drill. Okay, and I put those 2 in there at the same dimensions as you put the other over here in this block. Same dimension. And the same dimension, I went the same dimension in, so everything sits square on there. Okay? And then I have a few extra holes in here because I had originally bolted this to the bottom of the air bearing, and then I decided I didn't want to. So this hole you don't put in, this hole you don't put in, this hole you don't put in, and this hole you don't put in. So there's 4 extra holes here. So, all right. So now you take and come over the same dimension again and you put this in. It's a 3/8 diameter. What I used was a 3/8 diameter, and I turned up a stainless steel plug to fit in there tight, and I pressed that in. That's where that pin is. That's where this pin is going to ride. All right. So now all you got left on this side of the block is the bolt hole. And for that 1/4 inch hole bolt, I put in a 3/8 diameter because you want it big so that it can move. So you drill it big. All right. So then I flipped it over on end, and I drilled a 1/2 inch hole all the way through. And that really doesn't have to be reamed. It's for the finger to fit in. But I drilled and reamed it. Okay. And I put that on center of the block. And just over looks like over 800 thou is what I did. And me and John Center just flipped the block down like this, put a couple threaded screw holes through, intersecting the hole that you just did for the finger to fit in, the shaft. All right? And you get that done, and you flip it over, and now here again I have holes that aren't there. So this one's don't need, this one you don't need, this one you don't need, and this one you don't need, and this one you don't need. Those were second thought holes or whatever. So now you're going to mill a pocket in here. You're going to mill this pocket in. And it's in the center of the block, both ways, and I just made it, looks like 1 inch 160 deep or wide. You can make it whatever you want. I mean, you can make it bigger if you want. I wouldn't go smaller because it's hard to get stuff in there. And I went a depth of 1 inch 500, and the block is 2 inches, so you got a 1/2 inch floor in there. All right. What else can I say about this block? Oh, one other thing I can say about this block, I did not press that in, the stainless plug. I made it so it was a slip fit, because whatever your pin is sticking up here, you have to have it so that it's, and put the balls in there once. Oops. I got all the stuff in this pan with a magnet. Okay, so you have those. You have to figure out the height of the balls and the height of the pin. All right, so say these were a 1/4 inch high and this was a 1/2 inch high. So now you know that this pin sticks up a 1/4 inch higher than those balls. And then you got to put this on here. It was some dinking around to figure it out, because when you put this together, you want it to sit halfway straight. So I can't remember exactly how I achieved that. I can't remember how I achieved that. I messed around with that plug though. I messed around with that plug until I had it straight. You know. You'll have to just mess around with it until you get it straight. It doesn't have to be straight, but it's nice to, it looks better if it's straight. So anyway, that's everything for this block. Everything that I can say about this block anyway. All right. I think the next thing I made was the finger. And all that is I took a shaft, turned it down so it was a nice slip fit through there. Took a chunk of steel, diameter of steel, and I silver soldered it to the end of the, and then I drilled and reamed a hole through it and split it, because you have to make two of these actually. Let's take it apart and show you what I mean. There we go. Okay, so this is the part that fits in the block, and all it is a shaft with, I parted off a chunk of material. Basically, it is 875, 7/8, and I parted off a chunk, and I silver soldered it on. Then I took and drilled a hole through it, and I drilled it so that it was close to this. The reason for that is so I could put that screw through there. That's why it's off center. You know, otherwise I had to put it on center, but if I did that, then I wouldn't be able to get this screw through there. So it's up close to the, so just offset it off. I could have offset it even further, but I didn't. All right, once you have that, then I split it. Actually, I don't know, I didn't split it yet. I spot faced with an end mill, like this diameter, and then drilled the hole about halfway through, and then tap drill size the rest of the way through for the cap screw. Matter of fact, I took the tap drill size and drilled all the way through, and then came back with a clearance drill and drilled about halfway through. Then I set it up, and you can see I must have just eyeballed it, and I eyeballed it and split it with a split it with a slitting saw. You don't have to use a slitting saw. You could go on the bandsaw and just cut it. Okay, so then you have this piece. Now you got to go and do all of that again, only this time take this out. It's got a nut on the bottom. Basically the same as that. The only thing is, here now you see I put the hole right in the center. Okay, Silver soldered it on there, dialed in the hole, and then I put a pin, pressed a pin in over here so that it's just sticking out. Next piece is of the finger is you could actually use a piece of ready rod, threaded rod, mill the slot in it, mill it halfway, mill it halfway on the end here, and drill and tap a screw hole in it so you can hold the finger on it. So that slot keeps it orientated when you're loosening and tightening up, adjusting the height, because you'll be adjusting the height with that. Oops. I'm going, what am I doing? Not fitting right. I'm going to put the nut on here just so I don't lose it. I think what I use is half 20. I drilled our turn threads on a piece of 1/2 inch steel. But that's the finger.